We are live. Hello, humans. Happy Friday. Dr. Sarah Happening here with Performances Happening. And today we are doing another interview with a speaker from the Total Worker Health Symposium. And I am so excited today to be joined by Dr. Lee Newman. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Sarah.
Good to see you too. And he's also local to Colorado. I'm also in Colorado, South Denver. He gave me just like a few sentences to introduce him, but I dug into his bio and I want to give you folks more information because it's phenomenal, some of the things that he's doing. So excited to be joining today by Dr. Lee Newman. He's a distinguished professor of public health and medicine at the Colorado School of Public Health, where he co-directs the Center for Health, Work, and Environment, a Total Worker Health Center of Excellence, and serves as co-chair of the Total Worker Health Symposium's Planning Committee. And we did find out officially last night, that the symposium is going completely virtual, which is great news for those of you in Colorado who want to join. You can get a virtual ticket online, still available. And the good thing, one of the only good things about being virtual is there's so many presentations that are going on at the same time. And I learned yesterday that recordings will be available for 30 days after. So if there's two sessions going on at once, you can join one live and watch one later, which is a win-win.
There's definitely two sides to that. I love seeing people in person because I'm such an extrovert, but I also get that the travel can be challenging, and we're seeing a surge of people who are taking this up on the virtual option. So we'll have even more people.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm the same. I get energized by other humans. So it's okay. We're still going to get a lot of information, valuable learning that's going to go down. Okay. Dr. Newman is a physician scientist, educator, and entrepreneur whose career bridges medicine, research, and leadership. He co-founded the University of Colorado's Occupational and Environmental Medicine residency program and is a founding director of the Mountain and Plains Education and Research Center, one of only 18, oh my gosh, I just went over this. I'm going to do it. NIOSH funded training centers in the country. He's published over 260 research studies. I've done 4 and I felt like that was enough. And has led groundbreaking projects using the Total Worker Health framework to address climate-related hazards like heat exposure and air pollution, especially among agricultural workers in Mexico and Central America. Outside of his academic work, Dr. Newman is a musician, mentor, and mountain enthusiast who brings both heart and science to his mission of helping people live and work well. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for that sweet introduction. I appreciate it.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So, question number 1, why did your team decide to take a total worker health approach to addressing climate impacts?
Yeah, it's the backstory is kind of interesting. It hadn't really occurred to us to apply total worker health principles to the problem of climate impacts on workers until I received a LinkedIn message from a nurse and an occupational health person who was working with an agribusiness in Latin America, in Guatemala. And she sent me a LinkedIn request and said, hey, we think this total worker health approach might be useful for us to prevent people from getting sick, especially from kidney disease here in Guatemala, where we have a lot of people cutting sugarcane and getting kidney disease. And I'm going like, what a great idea. And so took them up on it, went down and met with their company leadership, discussed what total worker health was, presented some of our ideas after hearing their ideas of what they had done, set up a collaborative team with that agribusiness. And 9 years later, we're continuing to work with them to address all kinds of health issues that face people in these very challenging working conditions, and have extrapolated from that to, I think, a broader generalized sense of how total worker health, a more organization-focused approach to health and well-being as well as safety, can make a difference for workers, even in challenging conditions like extreme heat, hard labor, exposure to various other environmental hazards, as part of their work. So it's a crazy idea that we would launch into this, but I don't want to take credit for it. It was a colleague who had read our work and said, I think this applies to us in our company.
Yeah. Well, I think that's such a great example of the good work that you're doing when people are reaching out and want that for their organization or their workers or employees. So good job for, doing that well. And I'm a strong believer that things like that happen kind of on accident are usually the funnest and the most interesting because they came to you and you get to explore it from a different lens and a different perspective. But I'd like to back up just a little bit for our viewers. For those who are new about the concept of total worker health, can you explain it in like plain language to explain what the total worker health model is and how it works?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's basically the idea that you can improve worker health, safety, and well-being. You can create a workplace environment in which people can not only be safe on the job, but come away at the end of the day maybe a little bit healthier than they started. And the way to do that is by addressing what I would consider to be, in a broad category, organizational change. How do we work with employers as well as employees to promote health and well-being through changes in policies and practices in workplaces that can help promote health and well-being? And that means recognizing that we're 24/7 people. We're not simply workers, and
Yeah.
what we affects our health on the job affects us outside of work, and vice versa. What happens to us outside of work affects the way we work during the day. So it's taking a more holistic approach, and it's emphasizing what I consider to be a more more holistic, dimensional view of how to use the workplace as a platform for promoting health.
I love that. And I'm hearing a very specific, similar theme with all these interviews I'm doing. And I love it because my research is based on the psychobiosocial model of optimal human performance, which is we're humans. As you said, like how we perform at work is how we live our life. And it's such a bigger, we're humans and we're individual and it all matters. And I love that it's more of this holistic approach and giving people skills in the workplace that then can be brought home, be taught to the family, because we're humans. We're not just for the 8 hours a day. We're not, we're not robots, at least not yet. That might be a thing, but not quite
They're
yet.
out there.
They are out there. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. I just need to X that out. Okay. As the co-chair of the Total Worker Health Symposium, what excites you most about where the field is heading right now?
Probably for me, the most singular thing that I've seen in the last couple of years has been that, this started off as kind of a niche thing that was being done in corners of academia, promoted by NIOSH. The idea has been around for 20 years now and has been growing during that time. But it has now shifted into a different mode because we're seeing the occupational safety and health consulting community and corporations, small and large, adopting this, basically taking ownership of it, adapting it to what their needs are, and going like, yeah, this just makes sense. And so some of the most interesting advances, I think, in the field are going to come, like ours, where somebody out in industry says, hey, this could apply to us. And then they're taking it, embracing it, and making it theirs. So to me, that's kind of a breakthrough. I feel like we had made a lot of progress in occupational safety and health, promoting a safety culture, trying to cut down on work-related injuries, and that work, when people have focused on it and created a climate of safety, has really worked pretty well, but only to a point. And then at some point, you have to say, wait a minute, there's got to be more going on here, including psychosocial factors, Sarah, that are impeding our progress to have a healthier and safer workplaces. So I think the recognition that total worker health is a pathway for organizations to adopt that has been the biggest thing that I've seen change just in the last few years.
Yeah. I really love that. And I love that because you provide a framework so the organization realizes like so much of it is the culture and what you're creating at work, especially a lot of people we've been talking to, they're bringing up burnout. And yes, you can help the individual, but if you don't change the organization and the way that work is created and the culture is created, then you're not going to make real change. So I love that it's going the way that we always hoped it would go. It's just like everything, just a little bit slower. Okay. We're going to transition a little bit to your specific session. So your session explores workplace-based interventions for climate-related hazards. Can you share an example of how climate change is directly impacting worker health in your research and your work?
Well, I think you have to just pick up any news feed, any hour of the day to know some of the answers to this. Probably the most prominent of these and the most obvious to us is the impact of extreme heat. We've got the International Labor Organization estimates that we've got 2.4 billion people on the planet who are working in conditions of extreme heat. That's huge when you consider how heat itself is a threat multiplier. And what do I mean by that? If you are at risk in your job of physical injury, well, add a little bit more heat to your workplace and your injury rates go up. You have a job that requires you to think clearly. Well, cognition, as heat goes up, cognition goes down. And think about all the things that derive from that. So in terms of climate hazards, I think of it as a threat multiplier, and heat is the most obvious one. That's not to say it's the only one. When we have floods, when we have wildfires, we have people who are out there responding to those kinds of conditions, emergency response people, for example, and all the people who support them. These people put themselves into conditions of extreme air pollution from wildfires, for example. They may be the ones who are having to face physically challenging conditions during floods or other extreme weather events. So you can even go as far as to think about the workers who are out there in fields, and now you've got a new kind of mosquito that's moved into your neighborhood, and a new set of potential bugs that are going to cause diseases like dengue in Florida, right? I mean, so as you think about the workers as the climate canaries, the ones who are on the front line of climate and climate change. Almost anything that's a hazard for a worker becomes multiplied when you add a climate factor.
Yeah. I mean, you think of it from a basic basic needs, not even psychological, but like our body is responsible for thermogenesis. It's working, whether we're telling it to work or not, but that's taking resources from everything else. If your body is trying to cool itself and just function, all those extra tasks, even like digesting your food, is going to go on the back burner because your priority is to stay alive, right? And
well, I think it's an interesting way that you frame that, because if you think about it, we as employers, employers like to talk about productivity, right? And workers have their own version of that. Like I want to earn my paycheck. That's one form of productivity, but there are body systems that need to be productive and successful as well. And when you apply the heat, you are going to change the bodily conditions. You have more inflammation as you try to dissipate the heat and can't dissipate the heat, and your body temperature goes up. We have workers where a large number of them are out there in construction and in agriculture and other outdoor, as well as some indoor conditions that are exposed to extreme heat, where they're basically working with a fever. And it's not a fever that's caused by an infection. It's a fever that's driven by the fact that they cannot dissipate the amount of heat that their body is taking in, and also generating by doing heavy work. So think about that, and its impact on other organ systems is an interesting kind of internal perspective to productivity. I like that idea.
Yeah. I mean, as humans, we're supposed to have short levels of stress and then it goes away. But if you're consistently, heat is the stress in that situation and it's not going down, there's going to be so many effects of that. So yeah.
Well, and one of the things that we'll talk about in this session, one of the things that we've been observing is that, and this is why it's a total worker health issue. We see how hot and what kinds of health consequences there are for people during the time that they're on the job. But one of our investigators has been leading a team, and that's Dr. Lindsay Kreischer, has been leading a team that's looking into, well, what happens when you get off work? If you live in rural Guatemala, where sugarcane cutters spend all day, cutting 6 tons average, they're using a machete to cut 6 tons of sugarcane each per day, and their body temperature has gone up during the course of the day. Now they go home. What are they going home to? They're going home to living conditions which are almost as hot as what they had all day long. And so recovery from the heat is a challenge for agricultural workers. That's part of what we'll talk about in the session. We're also doing work. We've been doing work with people who work in greenhouses. And have you ever been in a greenhouse, like a production greenhouse, for any period of time? It's a great environment if you're a tomato or a pepper.
Yeah, feels like Florida all the time when you have to walk like this.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And so remarkably little research has been done looking at the health consequences of working inside these greenhouses. And then, by the way, you leave the greenhouse and you go outside and the conditions are not conducive to recovery. So, what are the things that employers can do? What are the things that individuals can do to protect their health when they're basically working inside an incubator?
Yeah.
We'll be talking about that.
I think that's important work. For sure. And what comes to mind immediately for me, I mean, I like green things.
I like that. Yeah.
I was like, I can show you over here too, but it's a little messy. So
I don't know how you water all those without getting water everywhere, but that's good.
Yeah. I also think of in greenhouses, especially if it's commercial, they're also pumping fertilizer and maybe things to keep the bugs away. Like that, I always think very holistically. So all those things also come to mind as what are their exposure to toxic levels, and not only the heat, but like how it absorbs on your skin, which is your largest organ. So my brain immediately goes to all of that. But I think it's important to start that discussion and talk about all of it.
No, I think that's a really good point, because one of the things that we see, so we've spent a lot of time looking at chronic kidney disease, because kidney disease is rising internationally as one of the major causes of morbidity and mortality in the world. So we've been spending about the last 10 years now on chronic kidney disease. And you're absolutely right. Like heat's a contributor, extreme work in the heat is a contributor, dehydration, not being able to keep up with the electrolytes. These are all risk factors, but they're just part of the whole profile of environmental factors that contribute to kidney disease. That includes things like nephrotoxins, we call them nephrotoxins, kidney toxins. And that could include things like agrochemicals. If you're in Guatemala, it's the heavy metals, the cadmium, the lead, the uranium, the different metals that come off of volcanic eruptions. So there are different contributors to each of these illnesses, and usually there's not a single, but multiple contributors to have to consider preventing in order to promote health.
Yeah, I love that. It's always more than one thing, folks. It's not just, if we weren't human, A equals B, but there's so many things that we have to incorporate.
Yeah. So I wish it were that simple.
I know. Solving problems with humans would be much easier, right? If you just, that's not how it is. There's so many things that affect us. Okay, next question. So sugarcane cutters and seeders in Latin America, you've worked in that industry for a fair amount of time now. What lessons from those field projects can we bring to industries here in the United States?
Well, it's there's a lot. First of all, the fact that we've had the privilege to work with these workers and with their employers in Latin America has been amazing. And I'd like to think that we've made a difference in their lives. We've seen the rates of kidney failure, for example, go down significantly where we've worked, in especially in Guatemala and Nicaragua. we are now starting to recognize that the same kinds of health problems are occurring here in North America. And whether you're in Arizona, you're in Texas, Florida, Louisiana, we're seeing increasingly an awareness of both acute kidney injury, meaning that during the course of a work shift, your kidney disease takes a hit, your kidneys take a hit, as well as chronic kidney disease. And here we've got kind of the complicating factor, which we're trying to use what we've learned in places like Guatemala and apply to the US. In the US, we have really high rates of diabetes and hypertension. Well, what do we know about those? Those diseases have as a comorbidity chronic kidney disease. Well, what we're learning in Guatemala about how to prevent people from getting chronic kidney disease has application here, especially as the heat rises for workers, especially as they work in conditions in different industries that expose them to other toxins that can cause kidney failure. So the current working notion is that you may have as your first hit having diabetes, or as your first hit hypertension or polycystic kidneys, but then combine that with doing hard work in hot conditions is going to potentially accelerate your risk of kidney disease. Let's take what we've learned in Guatemala about prevention and apply it here in the US for people who have pre-existing chronic illness.
What would be your number one tip for organizations that have heat forward employees to prevent or take action towards preventative measures for kidney disease if they're working in hot environments here?
Yeah, my answer would be broader than kidney disease because we also see heat stroke. We see increased rates of workers' comp claims and work-related injuries related to heat. So what is the simple take-home is that every company can put in place a heat exposure prevention plan, and they're out there. There are a variety of places where one can go. There are only 7 states that have state policies, state regulations right now around protecting people from heat. But you can look at any of those and go to any of the professional societies, and you'll find ways of establishing a heat protection plan for your employees.
I love that. Yeah, it's important. The saying like prevention is the best medicine, I think, applies to so many things. But yeah, it's sad because our society is like, it's not a problem until it's a problem. But this is something that affects, I'm sure, millions and millions of people. And prevention is one of the best things. Okay. I think that's amazing. We're coming to the end of the time. So do you want to share when your session is taking place? I have that in front of me if you need me to.
Oh, you probably know better than I do. When is it? I know we moved to Central Time, so the hours changed.
Yeah, the schedule's the same, but now we're on Central Time. Okay. Your session is titled Workplace-Based Interventions to Address Climate-Related Hazards. It goes down on 10/22, which is my husband's birthday. Shout out to Brent at 3:45 p.m. And as we mentioned before, you can still get a virtual ticket online. My session, if you want to join my session, is called Move at Work Challenge, Driving Employee Happiness and Health. That goes down on the 23rd at 11:15 a.m. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything you want to mention to maybe for the people who are on the fence about joining the symposium that you can like bump them over onto the let's do it side?
Well, I just first of all I want to thank Miranda Daly, who's going to do this session with me, and Lindsay Kreischer as well, and a shout out to all the people, Lily Tenney and her whole team for pulling this thing off. And boy, this is not our first rodeo. We've done other virtual conferences, and this is still going to be a really great conference. If anything, I think. If you got anything out of this half hour and some of the other stuff that you've watched Sarah do, you already know why you should be there. So, we'll see you there.
Yeah. Everyone I've been interviewing has been amazing. So I know I'm super excited to participate. And yeah, we'd love to see you join us. Okay. Happy Friday, everyone. And thank you so much, Dr. Lee.
Yeah, take care. Be well.